Hi everyone, welcome to this very old friend of mine, Vineet Patawari from. Hello.
Hey Pushkar, how are you? Hey Vineet.
Hey, hi, Sandeep. It seems there is some problem with Pushkar's audio. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, since we
Uh,
are live, thank you so much, Sandeep, for inviting me to your wonderful podcast. And I'll just add to what Pushkar was saying. We go a long way back. 2008,
yeah.
passed out from IIM Indore. Both of us were in the same batch. In fact,
Yes.
in class. So Pushkar was the real dude. We used to call him Dude Singh, and he is a dude right now also. And I am so jealous that both of you are in Bali, and I'm sitting here in Calcutta. So, anyways, thank you so much for having me here.
Hey, lovely to have you, Vineet. And interestingly, Pushkar's been talking about you for a while, and that we should get you definitely on because there's a lot of shared learning and experience that you can give to founders. Not just first-time founders, but overall how you've gone about the business. You mentioned that both of you were buddies at business school, and yeah, I agree. Pushkar is a complete rock star, dude. I mean, like a lot of my close friends call him the LinkedIn influencer, the real LinkedIn influencer.
Okay, just to interrupt. This podcast is about Vineet, not me, so we shouldn't talk
But
about him.
yeah,
But just one thing, guys. If you can't hear us, just put it on comments. I think we are live
yeah,
on LinkedIn. If there is some problems at our end, just to set up the context, I just want to share a small story. All of us graduated in 2008 from Indore, Vineet and I. And at that time, all of us, I would say, we all wanted to join either a consulting firm or an investment bank or make a career in finance, FMCG, some fancy corporate job because startups weren't common in India. But I believe Vineet was always clear. He knew in his mind that, hey, even if he'll work for a year or two, or I don't think he took a campus job, but maybe he worked for Irevna for a year. But he was always clear from the very start that, hey, he wants to build his own thing, which is now common in India in 2024, but 2008 no one used to talk about it. So I really want because I never got a chance to ask this to Vineet, like how he was so clear way back in 2008 when we were what like 23, 24 year old. Where did this vision come from?
All right. So, Pushkar, a couple of things on that. It was a very interesting time. Lehman, just happened at that point of time, and the whole world was very shaky, and people were so scared. Um, I remember our placement committee throwing people out the moment they had one job. Right. I wanted to experience the entire placement season. Before that, the norm was 2 to 3 jobs, and you can easily have 2 to 3 jobs per person. And if you are on the top 10%, probably you will have even better. So, the moment I sat for only one interview, it was JP Morgan, and I got that job, and I was out of the placement thing altogether, right? But since this thing was clear in my mind that it's okay, I don't want a job. I since have this JP Morgan, but the problem was once I had that job, the life became a little more difficult, right? Because everyone was saying that JP Morgan is a good brand. Why don't you just want and go and take some experience and then come back and probably do it, whatever you want to do. See, my concept, I'm a chartered accountant. My concept was very clear that at that point of time, my opportunity cost is the lowest, right? I, being a CA, being an MBA, I'll get a job anytime I want later also in my life, which I had to, because the first startup which I did, which didn't, I was not able to monetize it the way I wanted. So I went and did a corporate job only for a year, and then I came back into entrepreneurship. uh, but the point was, I was always clear that getting a job will not be difficult. So, keeping that in mind, the opportunity cost being the minimum, the risk taking time being the best, I took that opportunity. And, I will suggest anyone who is today listening to this probably not do it, because you have an environment, a ecosystem where you can train yourself. But I felt back then that doing a job in JPM into an investment banking firm will not train me for my startup. It will actually, take me away from my dream, because I'll be doing something different, and then I'll have that salary check every month. Probably be very difficult to come out of it once I enter it. So that was the thought process in my mind back then.
Wow. And what was your
That's
first startup idea right after college?
Yeah. So if you remember, 2008, CAT was going online, right? So I thought, why not create a portal, edutech portal, wherein people can get trained on the preparatory, CAT preparatory, and prepare online, take tests online, do the entire thing online. That's what I built. It was called Fire Up, and I built CAT preparatory and then all the related exams, right? The problem at that point of time, again, as you said, 2008, back then, the internet bandwidth was a problem. The payment infrastructure was a problem, So, and obviously, propensity to pay online was another problem. And then propensity to learn online yet has not arrived at that point of time, right? But we built the entire tech stack wherein we could host videos, right? But we realized that videos are not the thing yet in India, because given the limitation of bandwidth, etc. Then I created a lot of text-based content, right? And the stuff which didn't require that much bandwidth. That worked very well in terms of traction, in terms of people coming to the website. It did phenomenally well. I learned a lot of digital marketing techniques at that point of time. So that 2 years which I spent in building the first startup was completely worth it. Though monetization, as I was saying, payment entire infrastructure was not there. Monetizing it was becoming a little difficult. So, and raising funds and putting in money was not the concept which I was after. So I wanted to make a business which is self-sustainable from day one. So that went a little, but the learning was phenomenal, and that was the idea I was working on in the first startup I did.
Vinith, actually,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I'm sitting with two IIM boys, but I think you have a clear edge because I think a lot of things that founders struggle with is finance, cash flow, all of that. But your CA experience has probably paid you good stead in managing that process, I presume, right? So that is my first observation. The second observation is what you talked about
Just
in
on
terms
that,
of
I'll tell you, just on that, I'll tell you, it gave me an advantage in IIM also. Pushkar will remember first two terms, the CAs were the real hero, because they knew accounting, they knew finance, they knew everything, and everyone else used to get trained from them. There were only couple of CA kind of people in the entire batch, because the batch was full of engineers and boys only. So we had a clear advantage there. But yes, I agree to some extent. Understanding finance is a big plus for anyone doing any startup. Yeah.
yeah, you share my pain because I felt I was like a Dumbo in my class, in my MBA class, which had a lot of guys who were basically bankers and consultants who sort of knew stuff, and a lot of them pretended to know stuff as well. The second part, which I was getting at, is your journey kind of reminds me about what I was reading about Netflix. Like, imagine the early days of Netflix and the new Blockbuster. They wanted to compete with Blockbuster, and they sort of wanted to go online, but they realized that the tech wasn't there. The video delivery capability was not there, so they have to still go for a conventional method to deliver the content. And it's kind of very thoda jugaad in the way you said that, hey, video delivery is not possible, so I go text and I kind of build the whole ecosystem around you. So that's very, very interesting because I think it's like it's a mental chutpa that's required, right? Sometimes you kind of realize that you're ahead of the curve, and you kind of have to backtrack and find out another method that works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to add on that, when the time was right, I launched another platform which is called Elearnmarkets. which was again a edutech platform where I restarted my entrepreneurial journey after a year or so with working with Crystal. So the whole idea back then, 2014 15, when internet was there, we realized now it's the time to go online again, for and people will accept learning online, right? Though obviously post COVID it went to a different level altogether, but 2014-15 the time was apt, payment infrastructure was built, right? So when it was again there, I thought let's do it again now, and that's when we did Elearnmarkets, and this time we sailed through. Yeah.
One,
Great.
one,
Yeah. Pushkar, go ahead.
because when you started your first startup, you realized like you were a bit too early, and then you had to shut it down, right? So how
Yeah.
long did it take for you guys to realize that the hey guys, this is not working? Because see, whenever you start a company, you always face problems, and but you never quit when you first face problem, right? You always like there comes a tipping point when you realize that hey, what we are trying to do is not working. Let's do something else or let's repivot. For you, what was that point when you realized that right now in India, because of XYZ reasons, this is not working out?
See, Pushkar, I'll be very honest. I realized two things when I started my first venture. One was whatever you have learned in the college and the passion is not good enough to sail you through building a startup, right? You need to know more, you need to learn more, right? Obviously, learning by making all the mistakes yourself is too expensive, right? This is what I realized in my first startup after working on it for almost couple of years, right? The last 6 months when I tried everything, I created CDs, right? I thought we will mail the CDs to people who will buy, but that also didn't click, right? And I tried distributing those CDs through different channels as well. But ultimately, what happens is when you go through those channels, they want to eat up 60-70% of the margins, right? And the business becomes unviable because your cost of production is huge if you want to create video based content. And back then, it was not as easy, or the entire infrastructure was not there. So it was like proper shoot with teachers and with everyone. And the teachers were also very expensive because those time everything used to happen offline. So all in all, when you do something, you realize that there is much more to learn than where you are right now. You will not believe me, the 2 years, sorry, 1.5 year I spent with Irevna, which is a division of Crystal. Okay, there, to be very frank, I might have spent like 10-15% in doing Irevna's work, right? I hope they are not listening to me, but only 10-15% of my entire time into their work. Rest I was kind of doing R&D for my own stuff. I built a website back then called quickermaths.com, right? Sitting over there and worked on it for almost 1.5 years. Learned a lot of things in digital marketing, in building websites, in scaling them up, and so on and so forth. In edutech also, how to build that properly, how people internationally are doing it, and so on and so forth. So, to answer your question, it took me 4-5 months to realize that I'm not yet there in terms of understanding things, right? Jumping straight out of college may not be a good thing. And today, if anyone asks me, I always tell them figure out a startup which is closest to your aspiration, go and work with them. Even if they don't pay you, go do internship for free, right? You will learn a lot of things from them. 6 months, 1 year, whatever time you feel is good enough, then come back and build your startup. Probably these people from where you are learning, they will fund your startup also if they understand your aspiration and your fire, right? But back then it was not there. So 6 months it took me to get out of it, and then the process was painful. It was not as simple as it is sounding right now, because to shut something, to quit something is always, we don't want to quit. But I realize again there is a concept in finance called sunk cost, which says that जो जो बीत गई वो बात गई, ठीक है, बात खत्म, आगे बढ़ो. So that's what, it took me around 4 to 6 months to get out of this. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Vinith, because 10, 12 years back, I used to tell people the same thing, but only narrative was different was that I would tell people that go work for a large company for at least a couple of years where you
Yeah.
learn about people, systems, and process, how things are done. and there is some part of it which will be subconsciously embedded in you when you start and build a startup or a business. The narrative has slightly changed, but today you said go join a startup. Even if they don't pay you, you will learn a lot of things on the fly and which mistakes not to make, right? um, so coming to the main topic of the day, I mean, you did your first startup for a couple of years. What are the most crucial things would have been hiring? How did you go about that process of identifying the first five people that you wanted to onboard? How difficult or how easy was it? Because I presume you were building out of Calcutta, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you, it was a very interesting journey back then. I had a 6 to 7 people team, which at the very beginning I started with around 5 to 6 people, and then it went to around 15 odd people, and that's when I decided that it's time to do something else. So this 4, 5, 6 people with whom I started, they were all like very, very handpicked from different places, from different references, colleges, etc. Uh, One thing which I didn't do, which I should have done, and which required resources, was hire someone who understood certain things at a very, very advanced level. So the entire team was, I would say, more or less freshers or people with 2, 3, 4 years of experience. It had its disadvantages, which are obvious, but there were some big advantages. This entire 4, 5 people team, we learned everything together. We learned a lot of things together. We used to spend like 18, 20 hours every day together, just sitting around. And what happens is, at a very, so people who are building startups again, when you are a very small team, around 10 member, the life is very different. The productivity is very, very high, right? And as you grow up, you have to, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you have to understand the per person productivity will go down. You cannot do anything, right? Because if you are driving and there are 10 people, all of them share your passion and they are as productive as you are, and they'll add as much value as you are doing, because they feel they belong and the entire organization belongs to them. But this feelings gets diluted over a period of time. Plus, obviously, when you scale up, you add all kind of people, so the productivity per person keeps decreasing with time, right? In terms of hiring also, what happens is, when you are very small and you build something initially, uh, as they call back, beggars are not choosers. And if you have limited resources, you will just try and hire people whom there is a very strong connect, rather than very strong, I would say, technical skill sets, or it's very difficult. Secondly, another problem which I faced at that point of time was, I was not a techie, right? And I wanted to build a tech platform. Now evaluating a techie is very, very difficult, because you don't know your tech yourself, right? So I added a couple of people, and fortunately they were very, very good guys, and they became like co-founders, and they interviewed the remaining people from there on. But you might have a problem. That's why you should have a tech co-founder if possible, right? Or let's say people with supplementary skill sets, complementary skill sets as yours. So the initial team, the good part was they became so close that at least two of them are still working with me in this startup which I've done. So it's now 15 years and they are working with me, right? The
Wow.
other three are in US and other places, because they were techies and they went abroad. But the two which are there are the most loyal people, most hardworking people. So the early team built on more on hunch, more on connections. I think that's the right way to do it. And if you get skill sets, that's a plus.
I think you were very, very lucky, mate. Because I think me and Pushkar, when we talk to a lot of founders, especially first-time founders, they have product clarity. Most of them, I would say 70-80% of them have product clarity. But if they are non-tech founders, the biggest challenge is to kind of really identify and drill down who can be like a technical architect or a co-founder. uh, and of course there are a lot of agencies who kind of want to chip in and do product development in an outsourced fashion. But like you hit the nail on the head, if you can find somebody who can be like a pillar in tech, even if it's he or she is junior, and grow with you, nothing like it.
On that, I'll add two things. One is, the technical architect, the developers, or the engineering department. Right now, a non-techie cannot do, but the product part, right? If you want to be a real entrepreneur, you cannot do it without knowing two things: one, how to build a product, and two, how to sell it, right? You cannot hire anyone, you cannot do anything if you don't know these two things, right? The product clarity has to be there 100%. No engineer can build it if there is no product clarity in your mind as a founder. If you are a sole founder, if there are multiple founders, both of them need to have equal product clarity. And that's how the product development, if so when I was in Irevna, I'll tell you, I learned about product development, right? What a product guy is supposed to do. And that helped me a lot subsequently when we build the other two products which we are working on right now. So yes, to people who want to start something, my biggest suggestions will be, go, if even if you are a chartered accountant or whatever you are, two things: how to build, how to sell. These two things are absolutely essential if you want to do something in your life.
Very well said, Vineet.
Yeah,
So just
very well summarized, Vinith.
one question on this, on top of this. So when you started building out, of course, you are a CA MBA, non-techie. You thought you'll build a tech platform, and you didn't have a tech co-founder. How did you go about developing that product expertise then? Because of course, I know it's a journey. Like you don't have the perfect product on day one. But how did you think about the product and said like, hey, this is the product I want to develop, and then started learning about it? How did that happen?
So see, my first startup was into edutech. All right, I realized a lot of things which a learner needs when he's learning online. Okay, when I built my second startup, which is Elearnmarkets, which is built along with another IIM Indore alumnus Vivek Bajaj, who is a senior to both of us. He passed out in 2005. We passed out in 2008. So when we built this Elearnmarkets, which is a learning platform for financial markets, right, where we were teaching people technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and so on and so forth, we realized two things. In stock markets, people want to learn from experts, right, and people who have proved themselves. So while building the product, we created in such a way. Okay, the other thing which people want to learn is, apart from people who are just starting, who don't know anything, most of the people who are in markets, they feel we know the basics. We want to learn strategies, either in trading or in investing, so that I have some actionable insights on what to do, with stock to pick, how to pick, when to exit, and so on. So keeping these things in mind, we started designing the product. 2014-15, we had no tech co-founder. We added a tech co-founder later, 2016-17, Vinay. But back when we launched Elearnmarkets, we had no tech co-founder. So I personally started conceptualizing this, and that point of time we didn't even had Figma, which is very frequently used now, right? So I started drawing all the wireframes, etc., on paper, because I was non-techie and I wanted it to be like that. So on paper we designed a lot of such images. It was a lot of hard work, but it paid off, because the only one person we hired, a coder, a developer, and that also with very very basic skill sets. He's not working with me right now, but he calls me on every teacher's day, right?
Nice.
Wishing me, and it's such a proud moment, because see, I'm not a techie, but I sat with him full day, right? With these pictures, I wanted those things to be replicated like that. I had a designing agency which used to give me the designs, and this guy used to replicate it using basic HTML, CSS,
So
and he used.
2014-15 means you would have done both mobile version as well as desktop versions, right?
Yeah, first we did web. So yeah, this is also very interesting. In Elearnmarkets, first we did web, and then after 1 year we launched our app. 1.5 years. When we launched StockEdge, which is our product, which is now a bigger product than Elearnmarkets, which we built, which is now used by almost 6 million people in the country. So StockEdge, which is a stock analytics platform. In that we built app first, and we launched web after 2 years of app launch. So we thought we'll keep it mobile only, 2016. Okay, but then we realized that very serious people need web also. Okay, so then we launched web. So yeah, so to just to add to your point, yes, mobile also became, it just came in at that point of time. People were building app, and app was suddenly such a buzzword. Yeah, so it was a very interesting journey
Yeah,
learning those things, especially being an
exactly the
entrepreneur.
reason I asked you that question, Vinith, because I remember 2013, 14, there's this
Hmm.
whole transition into the app ecosystem, and
Yeah.
companies like Book My Show, Ixigo, Make My Trip were all jumping onto the app bandwagon, right?
I don't know if you remember, Mintra, they went app only first.
Then a big failure, 2014.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
of
And then they launched this. Yes. So, looking at Mintra, why I mentioned that, we were also thinking what to do, because, see, we wanted to launch something. The inspiration behind that was Bloomberg, right, which is such a powerful platform. And it was web. And in fact, it was a terminal. People need to have special skill sets to use Bloomberg, right? And we thought we'll kill that. We'll give everything on a mobile. Everyone can use it. And let's make it so simple. So this was the backstory, and we launched, and Mintra happened at that point of time. So we thought, people, the world is going towards mobile only, right? Today also, you see 80% of the 80 to 85% of our entire volume, traffic is coming from mobile only, okay, as a platform. So whether it is mobile web or a app. So we thought, let's do it mobile only. But within 6 to 8 months, we realized a lot of serious people are actually asking for web, right? So, 1.5 years it took, we went web also.
Uh, Great.
Yeah.
So it's kind of very interesting. I mean, like, Vinith, so you're a CA, obviously worked with smart people like Pushkar and IIM. How difficult or easy was it for you to kind of find people across the different domains? Because technic technology is one aspect, then there's a design aspect, then there's operation aspect, right? So you can't have the same frameworks or hiring matrices or KPIs when you, because it's fundamentally really different. Like you talked about Figma, how good is somebody's work on Figma? So did you have a network that you could leverage on to test somebody before you hired him? Did you give them an internship? What was the kind of initial thought process? I know you've become a master over the last almost a decade and a couple of years, but what is the initial frameworks that they used to find the right people and figure out if they were really good enough?
See, this entire process was the evolution from very, very basic stuff to what we do right now. Okay, especially the tech hiring, because it has been always a challenge. Especially, if you don't have a lot of money to throw, for hiring these people. So I'll tell you, Bharat Pay, yeah, Ashmir, he came up with this thing that he'll give Harley Davidson to all the developers. Something like that happened, right? This was in 2019, 20, right? Suddenly, the everyone in the tech became so expensive, and I
Very good
think
use of investor money.
yeah, because of the extraordinary investor money which was flowing into the startups. And what happened was everyone was flexible. Now after COVID, it went up again, but now from last 1.5 2 years, this entire winter in funding has had a lot of corrections in terms of people. But see, we were lucky in this part because we were sitting in Kolkata. A lot of people actually, ask us this question: how could you build anything sitting in Calcutta, the city which doesn't have that kind of aspirations and culture? How did you do that? I'll tell you, I have a 975 people tech team right now. Okay, and all of them are sitting in Calcutta. And the people who are leaving us, that attrition is so low, touch wood. And the reason for that is the culture in Calcutta. Okay, people over here, especially if they are handpicked in such a way that there is a good sync with our values and theirs, they stay. You give them decent growth, which is as per the company's growth. You match that, they'll stay. They value relationships, they value the entire learning which they are getting from the job. And I think that's true for all the places. It's an entrepreneur who starts feeling that money is the biggest attractor of talent, which I feel is not true. Yes, it might be true to, if you have to scale up very very fast, you need people, you throw money, you get the right people. But if you want to retain them, then money, I don't think, is the top factor out there. Once a person is inside, there are a lot of other factors. See, I tell you, for a long time we were working on Saturdays. Couple of people left us, and this was a shock of our life, because we were working on Saturday and the entire industry is switched off. uh, and we couldn't figure out, we had a sales, they had to work on Saturdays also, and at times Sundays also. So the first thing which we did was, we separated the offices. That tech will sit in a separate office, and that office will have all the Saturdays off. Non-tech will sit in a different office, and they'll not have Saturdays off, or they'll have alternate Saturdays off, or something like that. This we did because, see, what happens is, in a very close knit company, if you set different rules for different people, obviously there will be repercussions, right? We realized that, we separated the office. So my point is, hiring is one challenge, right? To understand whether we are hiring the right person or not, we initially we used to just do one interview. Then we added multiple interviews, so that we have perspective from multiple people. We started recording each individual's feedback very very minutely. Then we realized, even interviews we can go wrong. We started adding a machine test, and this machine test used to be 1.5 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, based on the problem. I'm talking about engineering hiring. All right. Then we added an aptitude test on top of it. Till that point of time, we never focused on what kind of education background the person is coming from. But later we realized that the people coming from slightly better educational backgrounds are doing better than the average folks. So we added a criteria. So, as I was telling, we evolve. And obviously it might sound very logical to someone, that why you should have started with all these points. These are very basic, right? uh, Maybe because of two reasons. One, we don't focus on any HR subject in our college, right? Any organizational behavior, HR, etc., all those are like, for students it's time pass. Okay.
Did you guys have organizational behavior, OB?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Pushkar will tell you more about it, I
No,
think.
but Vinith, sorry to interrupt you, but see, whatever you're talking about, right? I mean, the three examples that come to mind, top of my mind, is obviously the Zoho story, right? The Zoho story, just like you talked about attrition, I think the founders were very, very steadfast in trying to promote people from within, understand that people have a purpose, and ensuring that there is a bonus pool, etc., to share between employees. So there is the money part of it, and there's a sense of the fact that there's an ownership, and
Yeah.
that's what probably one of the reasons why the company stayed private throughout the life cycle of the business. So that's one. Second is, very interestingly, I think I remember about 6 or 7 years back, I went through a YouTube uh, documentary, or was it Girish at Freshworks, where he said we didn't know what HR was till like 400 employees,
Yeah.
and for me that was mind blowing, because you're building a fast growth company, and there's an opportunity, and you've got behemoths such as Zendesk out there. Naturally, when founders have more than 25-30 employees, the first thing that they think about is, hey, ऑप्स के लिए लोग चाहिए, एचआर के लिए लोग चाहिए, मेरे को ये केपीआई करना है, वो करना है, assessment of all of that. So that was very, very interesting. It's kind of resonated with what you just detailed. And third part is, again, I told you I'm from Kerala, and one of the big examples I tell people a lot is, I have this friend, a really crazy ass entrepreneur called Abhi Krishna, who built a vertical SaaS business out of Trivandrum. So he has teams between Trivandrum and Florida, about 700 plus people, raised a bunch load of venture capital, and he, like you, proved that you can build very effective, efficient businesses with top tier talent from a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 place, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's about communication and having people to share your journey. And it's very interesting when you said that, hey, I differentiated my teams. The tech guys need to work only 5 days a week, but sales and marketing guys need to bring in my money, right?
Yeah, yeah. One more thing, which is very similar to what Zoho, it's an inspirational story, is for our tech talent. We don't focus on hiring the best. This might sound a little counterintuitive, but the best is not there in Calcutta, number one. Number two, if it is there, it's super expensive, right? Given the limited resources you always work with, what we realized is if you have some good talent out there at the top, and especially our co-founder Vinay, right? He can work with people who are little lesser than the best, right? It's like, when you are trying to date, there are two girls, go for the second best, right? Because जो best है उसके पीछे तो सभी लगे हुए हैं and people are ignoring the second best. So point is, we hired people who were not that great technically, purposefully, because we knew that they are trainable, and we hired such people. So it reduced our cost, it increased the stay, as in the entire duration they stayed with us, reduced the attrition overall. So yes, that is very similar to Zoho, because as you said, building a team in Chennai from a remote location, and training people from very very basic skill sets, those people will have a very high life, a long life with you, and they'll stay loyal and they'll learn things, and then they will also train people under them because they have learned everything from you. So that culture is very very important. If you want to build a bootstrap startup, that's very important. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Pushkar,
Just
I think
one.
you need to ask Vineet some hard questions, bro. He seems to have all the answers, as far as I know.
He was one of the smartest guys at IIM, so it's obvious he has all the answers. But now, one thing I'm curious about, Vineet, because I know you for a really long time. I also know Vivek. Both of you are non-techies. Now you are building a tech business. How did you find the right tech co-founder? Because as you said, once you had the co-founder in place, hiring second level became easier. That became his job. A lot of non hello
Yeah, yeah.
hello
Just missed the last sentence.
sorry no, I was just saying because my connection is not very good. A lot of non-tech founders struggle with finding the right tech co-founder. How did you solve that puzzle?
See, in our journey, we always gave relationships the biggest value. So if you ask us, people coming from referral, we have a softer corners to them. Anyone who is referred by our employees, or if the person is in our friend circle, etc. So Vinay, who is the third co-founder now, actually Vivek and Vinay went to school together, right? So they go long back, and I also went to the same school, so he was my senior also in the school, right? So we knew each other from quite some time, and he used to be our vendor back. Vivek had a family business which was into prop trading. So he was the vendor, he was developing financial products for them, as in trading related products for them. So we knew the capabilities, right? The capability, the only thing was that kind of repo, that kind of because when you are building and you know that you don't have the expertise, and someone else is coming, you need enormous trust in that individual, and the trust was there even before he was part of the team. As a vendor, that trust was there. So for us, that became obvious that he's the best choice. He's from Calcutta, he is like family, so let's build this together. And he started with StockEdge. Elearnmarkets was still separate, because that was a product which can be used by trader, and he had built similar products a lot for different brokers in the country. So then he came on board, and that's where the whole thing started. But yeah, the relationship, trust, that was the cornerstone of the entire relationship which was built. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
also something that we pay for, right? Because, like, the whole, for example, the IIM tag
Hmm.
or the school tag, or the kind of uh, the social networks that we formally and informally create, sort of becomes a vetting board to identify the right people that we want to engage with. And there's a vibe check, right? Because you're part of the same mafia, you want to do stuff together.
Yeah.
That helps for sure.
I'll say that as an MBA, people ask me that what is the best thing which you got out from an MBA. I think it's your network which you get out from there. As a MBA, as a CA, as a school, if you are not building the right kind of network, or you are not leveraging that network, probably you are not doing justice. Because see, the technical skill sets are now available in anywhere. You can learn the same stuff which you learned from IIM by looking at the videos in Udemy and Coursera, or even Elearnmarkets. So my point is, you don't go there for hard skills, right? Soft skills also you can learn elsewhere, but that network you cannot build elsewhere. So for that, you need to go to a grad school, for an MBA school, and stay there. I didn't do engineering, so I studied my graduation BCom, and I was staying at my home. The relationship which you build by staying in a hostel or in a college for 2 years, that's a different kind of relationship. Even, we didn't speak, Pushkar and me, for let's say years, but the moment we will reconnect, it's the same reconnect which builds up. And you can ask for help directly without building up on the niceties. So that's what is amazing. And I'll tell you, I had a junior who was in my team, Hiren. He worked with us for a couple of years, and he added enormous value in our journey. He was also from IIM Indore, I think 2014-15 batch. So I think you should continuously keep in touch with your college, with your environment, and try to get the people again from references, from those kind. Because see, a junior will treat you in a very very different way. A batchmate will treat you in a very very different way than a person who you have never knew, whom you had no connect ever. So I feel, for your hiring, first thing first, you should have a large network. It can be college, school, etc., etc. And when you reach out there, and if people apply to you, one thing, you have done a good job, that your startup is valued in terms of, people are ready to work for you, right? If that is there and they are coming, then you should accept it. Tab fir thoda technical kam bhi ho, you can train them. That's what I feel.
Uh,
Very powerful.
Brilliant, great nuggets. So did you have any issues where you had fake offer letters from StockEdge go out into the market? Because I've got several friends of mine who had like these scams, frauds happening, and considering you employ a lot of people in Cal, has that happened to you? Has it occurred to you? And it's like you say that. I mean,
uh,
it's a sign that you have arrived to a certain extent.
hmm. Um, See, not fake offer letters, but what happens is, see, we are very cautious about ethics, very, very high on ethics, because, see, two reasons. One, our business is such that if you are not very, very ethical, you cannot sustain for long term. Because financial markets, if people don't trust you, then you are out of the business very, very soon. Uh, Two, we don't hire anyone till the time we are satisfied that he is very high on ethics. For example, we ask a question that, boss, you have a 2 month notice period. Can you come immediately? And if he says, yes, I can come immediately, and the next question is, what about the notice period? He says, it's okay. If he's casual about it, which means he is not valuing the commitment which he has done for his notice period. That's a red flag. Immediately a red flag. So we have a set of 10-15 questions like that, where if a person is not very high, even if you have to wait for 2 months, and what happens is, most of the time when we wait for 2 months, that person is gone because he gets hired somewhere else or something else happens. That's a different problem. But if he's ready to come by not negotiating with the other party, right, and just casually, letting go the notice period because there is nothing to lose, that's a red flag for us. Because someone who can abandon the current employer today will abandon you also tomorrow. So we do all those checks and ensure that we have ethically very very high moral standard of people. And if we see anything unethical happening anywhere, right, it's a no tolerance. One on the, because we are discussing HR to some extent, one is on conduct, personal conduct, because we have a gender ratio of around 50-50 within a 250 people team. Okay, so one, your conduct overall. Number two, anything unethical, slightest of it, we ask you to leave immediately. And we, I don't know whether it is right or wrong, but we believe in being very, very transparent about the reason a person is leaving, because otherwise there is a lot of grapevine and gossip which goes around, and that's not a good thing, we believe. So we believe in letting people inside know what was the reason a person was asked to leave, right? So we try to keep transparency on that front, so people are aware that this is not acceptable, there is zero tolerance on these few things. Yeah.
Great. Because I have a few questions. I mean, two important ones. One was, at some point in your journey, you must have started using external consultants for your hiring, right? And why did you choose to go that way? Is it to find passive job seekers that you feel would add value to your org? So that's my first question. Second question is, the world changed in 2020 during the pandemic, and I think you stressed about culture, attitude, etc. So you must have also gone from that mode of fully on-prem to remote to hybrid. How did you guys cope with that? I'm just interested in hearing your parts of.
Yeah. So, later in our journey, we realized that if you have to hire the next layer of the management team, right, just after the co founders, you need very, very talented people. And most of these people are passive in terms of searching for jobs, they are not very actively looking for it. And till that point of time, all our ways of reaching out to people were, only to active job seekers, whether we had the subscription of any platform or whether we are posting on our social medias, etc., etc. So these passive job seekers who are very highly talented, right, who can manage the entire working, for that we had to go through this route. And I think we did the right thing. We could interview a lot of people. Some of them are, you know they did stick around. There were few who were, who probably were not the right fit. But the whole point is, if you have to hire very talented people, this entire working with consultant becomes a necessity. And it's not only for hiring people, in fact, to train people. We had a consultant who worked with us only to train the L2, as in there were a lot of people who were internally promoted, and what happens is they don't have the managerial capabilities which are required, but they have been with you for 6 7 years. So for their leadership training, as you said, that we learned all the HR while doing it. Okay, so it was not that like you pointed out. So we realized that we will not be able to train them. We need full-time consultant who can actually work with us for a year and train them. It's not a 1 month thing, it's not a 4 day training which can happen and leadership can come. So he worked with at least 20 odd people who was the leadership team. And for 1 year, this work went on. And that's how we built the team. And in this 20 people, at least 7, 8, 10 people were hired through placement consultants when we were scaling up our team at one point of time. So yeah, that was very important. Secondly, what was your second question? Sorry.
The transition during pandemic from on-prem to remote to probably hybrid, right?
Hmm.
Um, because I think a lot of companies got that drastically wrong or spot on right. I think the DNAs and cultures were different. What was your background of how did you guys deal with that? There must have been a lot of ups and downs and all of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, I tell you something, why people are very important, and why, as top leadership, you need to focus on the middle level management or the level 2 of your organization is your responsibility is to make sure that these are top notch. You cannot ensure that the entire 250 people team, or let's say if it grows to 500,000, you cannot ensure that all of them are of the same capability. But if you ensure that the top 20, 30, 50 top management, which you call, or middle level management, they are of very, very high quality, then you need to communicate with them, and they can very passionately take this to the next level. Now what happens is, all the decisions which we took after 2018-19, right, we took with all these 20 people combined, and this happened alongside when they were getting trained for this leadership process. See, a lot of people have negative connotations about consultants. I feel you need gurus in your entire journey, and your life at different stages. From 0 to 10 employees will be very different from 10 to 100 employees, and from 100 to 1000 employees it will be very, very different, right? So you need different people who can come in, who have been experienced in that, right? Who can train you, who can tell you that these are obvious things which you are not doing, right? So we got to know a lot of obvious things which we are not doing. For example, in our entire organization we implemented proper KRA KPI of each individual back in 2019 when this leadership training thing happened. Before that it was more of personal management was going on. So with this KRA KPI things, and now our entire appraisal process is much more structured, much more fair, I would say, compared to whom I like and I appraise him on that basis. So now it is more objective. So my point is, at every point of time in your growth journey you need to realize the need of people who have been there, done that. Now that can be a consultant who can ask for money, or it can be a friend who can sit with you, right, evaluate your team. The only thing is you should be flexible enough to listen to them, listen to the criticism which will come. That मतलब people at times will be very, very critical that boss ये तो बच्चों को भी पता है, तुमको नहीं पता कि KRA KPI होना चाहिए. पता तो है, पढ़ा तो था, लेकिन इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया. So ठीक है, चलिए अब बोल रहे हैं I'll implement, I'll come back and I'll report to you in 15 days time what implementation. So the one good thing with all of us is we are very flexible in making people whom we trust as our guru, and we start reporting to them for that period of time. So for example, Pushkar will start training me on something. I'll say, boss, I'll come and I'll report to you on this whether I've done it or not, because I need an accountability partner.
Pushkar is our universal guru, dude. That's why
Ah.
he's like a steady figure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll talk to him what he'll train me on, and I'm sure there are hundreds of things. One of them being fundraising, which we never tried too hard on. So Pushkar
Yeah.
helps many
So
people.
we have a couple of interesting questions with Pushkar. If I were to just take it, one of our good friends of Pushkar and mine, Divya, is asking this question: have you gone through a down cycle where you had to lay off people? How did that whole process work? And how did you handle employee morale, all of that, right? So that's one interesting question. You probably want to take a couple of minutes to answer that.
Uh, there was a point of time, I would say, where we started contemplating doing that. This was a couple of years back when the this was post COVID, one and a half years after COVID. Suddenly, the business became a little tricky. So what happened was, during COVID the entire business saw a upsurge because of the tailwind which came in financial markets. Everyone started opening demat accounts, and we became beneficiary of that. But now there is a slow, as in I will not say slowdown, but obviously that kind of growth is not there, right? So when it just started happening, we were like, we can do with lesser number of people now, because we hired extra. We thought this will continue, okay. But when we realized that firing people is the most difficult thing and the easiest thing to do out of distress, we realized we will not do that. What we did at that point of time was we froze on a lot of hiring. We in fact, from last 1 year, we have gone very slow on hiring tech. We have gone slow on hiring a lot of other aspects. We increased our hiring on marketing and sales because our products were built, right? We realized now let's spend more money on the resources which can earn on their own, who can earn their own salary. So rather than firing, we increased our efforts in increasing our revenue. And that was a very good decision we made, because that pressure of paying the salary bill was there, and we had no enormous funds of a VC money, etc. So we had to earn and give salaries. So we realized the only point is, let's not focus on cost, right? Because that's not the right way. It builds in a lot of negativity in the organization. Let's focus on increasing revenue. And that's what we communicated to our entire 250 people team, that from here the entire focus is on revenue. So let us start evaluating how we are contributing to the revenue. Let's become a very, very revenue focused organization, right? And a lot of people change their way of working. If earlier the product was getting shipped in, let's say, 6 months, then it started happening in 3 months. So a lot of things evolved because of this communication which went there with a lot of transparency, and things were back to track in 3 months from there. And yeah, we went slow on hiring, but yeah, no firing thankfully we had to do at such levels. Yeah.
Pushka, any questions from your end? I have a couple more before we can kind of wrap it up. But Pushka,
One question, Vineet, since we are talking so much about hiring, and I totally agree with you that as a founder or a CEO, your job is to ensure next level is perfect, right? And they'll manage after that. How do you retain your top management, the top 10 guys? How do you keep them motivated? Because as you said, money is just a tiny thing.
Yeah. So see, money is important. I would not say it's not important, but it's like a hygiene factor. It has to be there, right? Just having money out there is not sufficient. You need to build an environment where they feel respected. That's number one. So we are very clear at that people in the room, and we don't want to be portrayed as the smartest, right? If you are hired as a marketing lead, right, the ultimate decision of marketing related activities rests with you and not with the co-founder, not with the founder. All right, if you are hired as an engineering lead, then you will take the decision, ultimate decision. So we are, in that case, if we are working in that, we are reporting to you for that. you know so this is something which is very, very important, because number one, they have a sense of ownership in that case, because they own that project. That's extremely important, I've seen. That's number one. Number two, if they need certain resources, what happens is, um, a communication is extremely, extremely important. There was a point of time in my life when I thought that meetings are waste of time, right? Because it drains out your energy. But what I've realized is, if meetings done in a right way and at the right frequency, adds enormously to the relationships which you need to build with the people. So what happens is, what we have done, I'll tell you, with meetings, there are certain frequencies of different meetings. There are certain meetings which are weekly. So let's service department, which we call at customer delight. It's a weekly meeting where we'll see what's the NPS, what's the kind of top 10 recurring problems, and we have a set structure of the team meeting, and the data is presented. It takes around 15 to 20 minutes to present all the data, to grasp all the data, right? The data can be good, the data can be bad. We might be doing something wrong, right? That's a different thing. The data gets presented in 10 to 15, 20 minutes. What happens is, the person who is leading that, he comes up with the solution because he knows that there is a problem. He comes up with a solution. He proposes that all you have to do is support that individual. If there is a resource allocation required, if there is a manpower required, if there is some spending required somewhere, that's what we need to do. So what happens is, we have the right raw material for taking the right decision for the business, right? But ultimately the decision is taken and proposed by the individual who's leading it. Now what happens is, when you don't have such meetings, right, people are not on their foot all the time. They are not, first of all, tracking the data, right? They are not trying to fix the problems which are emerging. In fact, they are not even evaluating that this problem might be there. So I feel meetings are important, data is extremely important, right? And you should have a culture where everyone only talks about data. So what happens is, I'll tell you very unique thing. In our meetings, words like "it has improved," "it has gone bad" are not allowed. You cannot have any subjective, any such term used. If you are using that term, tell exactly in terms of data what has happened, right? Because what is good for you might not be good for me. So we need to have a clear success metrics, and you need to define your data. Otherwise, don't utter that word that this has gone better. For example, our NPS has gone, suddenly customers have become, appreciative, or a lot of people are appreciating this fact. No, lot of people appreciating has no meaning. How many people gave you positive feedback in NPS, in Google reviews, in XYZ places? Tell us exactly that and then say that this is good or bad. So, that is very helpful in the entire matter.
It is actually brilliant because I was just thinking about you and your business and how you built it. A One thing I find very starkly different about you, Vinith, is that you're top 10% of CAs who like to play attack and not defense. The normal CA approach would be maintain status quo and look at cost drivers and kind of optimize profitability. So that's brilliant. Uh, Second thing that I observed is, dude, you built a fantastic business on data, but the two most important aspects are the human elements, which is the employee base that you have and how you get them to share the ownership and the love and the joy from a team point of view. And second is, from an organic building of the business, you had amazing customer love and downloads, which shows that there is the data part of it, and then more importantly there's the empathy part of it, which is fantastic to hear, because you built a business right. I mean, I'm like, a lot of times people think that, hey, I just want to build something and get it to thrust takeoff velocity and then do it right. But you said that no, let me focus on the data, but the important elements are the customers, and the important elements why customers stay with us are the employees.
Yeah.
Pushkar, would you agree?
Yeah, yeah. And I also think Vineet's training as a CA has really helped him that, because I also remember in college he was always very keen on measuring things, like quantifying things. And I guess that's the CA part of it. I think we are over time, Vineet, but like it's already like more than an
Yeah.
hour. But any final thoughts on, as a non-techie, like if I want to build a tech business, how should I go about it? What you have learned?
Uh, See, I'll tell you a couple of things on that, right? One is, I'll tell you where I am today first. I am 40 plus, as in almost all of us are now 40 plus, right? Um, I think 40 is a very sweet spot where you have some experience and there is some more to take. All right. So I think number one, if you want to build something, especially in tech, and there is, very few businesses will be which will not have tech as a component, right? And now with the world changing with AI and other things, one thing at the age of 40 which you need to do as a founder is get into a reverse mentoring kind of concept, right? Because the younger folks will understand things much faster than you, and you will have, your fluid intelligence will go down. You have to accept this, and you will have some crystallized intelligence which is there. But for that fluid intelligence, you have to rely on the 20-year-olds, the Gen Z of the world, which can understand AI much faster than you, which can understand social media much faster than you, right? How the algo works much faster than you. Because your tweet or your LinkedIn post or your this thing might not able to reach when you do it your way, but when you listen to people, right, who are much younger, you do it much better. So you should have that flexibility of getting mentored by your junior people, right? That's number one. So that is for people of my age who want to build something from here on, right? Number two, people who are just starting and they want to build something of whatever age they are, you need to understand that number one, again, as I said, first of all, learn to build it. And if you're building a tech product, you cannot just rely on tech people to do it. See, I come from a CA background. I have certain concepts of my own, thought process, psychology, behavior of my own, right, which will be very very different from a techie, right? So I need to understand what product I want to build, right? Then I can talk and come in a middle path. I cannot be void of any understanding of product. So learn how to build product. There are courses. Achha, another thing, if you want to build something on today's age, you have to be a learning machine. to reading books, first thing first, you need to accept that आपको कुछ नहीं आता. You don't know anything, right? At any point of time, if you start believing you know, boss, every 6 months things are changing at such a fast pace. There are concepts which are unheard of. Couple of years back we were not talking about chat gpt, we were not talking about all the llm models, etc., etc. Now that's the buzzword, right? 1 year back we were talking about things like this entire Facebook was building a alternative universe and this and that. All of that is not the buzz of the
Yeah,
town
the,
now.
the metaverse got killed.
The metaverse, it got killed suddenly. It's like pager. In our childhood days there is something called pager. It had a life of 1 year, then it suddenly disappeared. So you never know what will stick, what will not stick, what will come in next 6 months. If you're not learning, you're gone. So be flexible in learning. Number two, if you don't know how to build a product, you cannot launch a thing. Someone else might code, and now there is no code, low code, this code, right? So coding is not very important, but you need to know how to build a product. Number one. Number two, keep listening to your audience, because you will not know what your audience likes. You will know what you like. You can, you know, launch something based on your hunch, or you have to be a Steve Jobs who can say that customers don't know what they like, I'll build something and customers will accept. But for lesser mortals like you and me, right, we have to listen to our customers and keep continuously building on top of what we have already delivered. So keep your eyes open, listen to your customers, build multiple ways of listening. Like for example, we launched offline events. We do 12 to 15 offline events in a year. Go meet people, train them, and learn from them what they are liking, what they are not liking, and continuously build our product on because of that. So that's what you also need to do. So learning becomes an absolutely essential part, whether you are starting today, tomorrow. And two things which you need to learn before you launch: one, how to build, and two, how to sell. Yeah.
Awesome. I think Sandeep also says founders are always selling to the employees, to the investors, to customers,
Yeah,
to themselves
yeah,
also.
yeah. I
That's both
mean,
correct.
Vinith, I don't know what to say, man. I mean, it's been amazing actually to listen to your journey, and that clarity of thought is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, if I were to kind of rephrase what you just said, it's about being an active listener, understand your customer, build what they want, and sell, 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 and that whole feedback loop, and treat your people right, get
Yes.
them empowered, and let them bring their own tribe. And that's how you build a profitable, successful company, pretty much in a nutshell, right? Have I
Absolutely.
summarized that
Very well
correctly?
summarized.
Because this was one of the most amazing sessions. I mean, Vinith, I wish I would have met you so many years back, because it would have enriched my journey and screw ups in terms of building companies. But thanks to Pushkar, here we meet. Pushkar,
Thank
any
you.
closing words?
No, I think you did it really well. Thanks, Vineet.
It
This
was
See you
absolutely
in Calcutta,
amazing
buddy.
talking to both of you. Yeah, absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you.
and
Obviously.
hopefully we'll meet soon. I was supposed to be in
Absolutely.
Cal, but we are instead in Bali. But hope to meet you soon.
No, Pushkar has told me that next time when he is around, we'll meet.
Pakka.
Sure.
Chalo.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Enjoy.
much,
Bye.
Vinith. Yep.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Bye.